The darkness was absolute. There were no landmarks, no light to guide my eyes, only the suffocating blackness and the echo of my thoughts. The air was thick, damp, and heavy with the stench of decay. My body ached from the confinement, every muscle strained as I curled into the tight, slimy space. The walls around me pulsed faintly, a reminder that I was not just trapped, but alive inside this enormous beast. Each breath was labored, a mix of seawater and putrid fumes. It felt like death itself had swallowed me, and yet I was alive. This was mercy, though it didn't feel like it at first. I struggled at first to understand how I had ended up here. The memories came in flashes, the ship tossing violently under the storm, the sailors' terrified shouts, my admission that I was the cause. I had run from God, boarded a ship to Tarshish, and tried to escape his call. I was determined to flee, to pretend his voice didn't matter. But even in my rebellion, he had pursued me. The storm was his hand, and this belly, this living tomb, was his answer. The realization hit me with the weight of 1,000 waves. I had disobeyed him, and now I was trapped, left alone with my guilt. There was no escape, no place to run this time. I was stripped of my pride and my excuses, left only with my shame and the understanding that I had been wrong, utterly, painfully wrong. At first, my prayers were shallow cries for deliverance. "Get me out of here," I begged over and over, thinking only of my suffering. But as the hours turned to days, the anguish in my heart began to shift. In the belly of the fish, cut off from the world, I had no distractions, only silence and a God who would not let me go. I began to reflect deeply, peeling back the layers of my disobedience and pride. Why had I run? Was it fear? Yes, partly. But more than that, it was my anger. God had asked me to preach to the Ninevites, and I couldn't bear the thought of extending mercy to those I considered irredeemable. They were my enemies, and I wanted judgment, not grace. I wanted to decide who was worthy of salvation, even though I had no right to make that choice. But in this dark, confined space, I saw the truth with painful clarity. I was no different than the Ninevites. I too was sinful. I too deserved judgment, and yet here I was, alive. God hadn't abandoned me. He hadn't struck me down for my rebellion. Instead, he had given me this strange, incomprehensible mercy, the fish that held me and kept me from drowning. As I prayed, my words transformed from pleas for escape to prayers of surrender. I confessed my arrogance, my stubbornness, my failure to trust. "Salvation comes from the Lord," I whispered, the words forming like a weightless offering on my lips. I didn't deserve rescue, but I realized it wasn't about what I deserved. It was about God's grace, which was far greater than my understanding. By the third day, something inside me had changed. My body was still weak, my surroundings still unbearable, but my spirit had softened. I had been humbled completely, brought to the depths in every sense of the word. And yet, it was there, in the depths, that I found God more clearly than I ever had on dry land. His presence was undeniable, his mercy overwhelming. When the fish finally expelled me onto the shore, the sunlight felt like a revelation. I knelt in the sand, my knees sinking into the earth, and I breathed deeply for the first time in days. The warmth of the sun, the coolness of the breeze. It felt like rebirth. I knew what I had to do. I wouldn't run again. I wouldn't question his call. The God who saved me from the depths was the God I would follow wherever he led, even to Nineveh. My fear was no longer of his commands, but of failing to obey him. Inside that great fish, I had been stripped of everything, comfort, control, even pride. But in its belly I had found the truth. Obedience wasn't about convenience or understanding. It was about surrender. It was about trust. And for the first time, I was ready to give both wholeheartedly.